Hi, my name is Zach Wood.
Today's date is October 14th, 2014. I'm sitting in the home of Bud Shoemaker here in western Wilkes County, North Carolina, and I'm going to interview him on his service in the Vietnam War. So, Bud, when and where were you born?
I was born in Caldwell County, uh, November the 4th, 1946.
Now, did your family always live in Caldwell County, or did they move around?
My folks were from Wilkes, and that's where the jobs were, and that's why they moved to Manoa.
Yes, sir. What schools did you attend here in Wilkes County?
Attended Maple Springs Elementary, and it was done away with when I was in the 5th grade. And I went to 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade at Mount Pleasant. And then in high school, I went to West Wilkes.
When did you graduate?
1965.
What did you do after graduation?
I went to school for another year for Psych Tech.
Did you were you drafted or did you enlist in the military?
I was drafted.
What service did you go into?
The Army.
So, do you know what day you went in?
August 17th, I believe it was, 1967.
Where was your boot camp at?
I had basic training at Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Now, what was boot camp like?
Well, it was PT. You got up running, and the last thing you did before you went to bed was run. You weren't caught. If you were caught walking, you didn't push it. You got a haircut every Friday for 8 weeks, and your beard would grow out longer than your hair overnight. You could reach and get your beard the next morning, but you couldn't reach on top of your head until you give you hair. And the food wasn't good, but it was all you had. So you learned to eat stuff that you'd never eaten before, too. Was full exercise. Drill sergeants never spoke kindly to you.
I bet they didn't.
Well, the reason they didn't, the reason they hollered at you all the time, they wanted to see if they could break you down. Because they knew in a war zone, if they couldn't break you, it'd be a good chance you'd be all right in a war. Of course, you don't realize that while you're going through it, But that was their purpose. I don't know whether your dad had ever told you that or not.
Yes, sir, he did. So, how long did boot camp last for you?
8 weeks.
8 weeks. Where'd you go after boot camp?
Came home for a few days, I don't know, 2 weeks probably, and went from there. I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, for artillery training.
Okay.
And spent 8 weeks there. Came home from after there. I came home for a couple of weeks and went to Vietnam. We flew from North Carolina to Fort Lewis, Washington. And that's in Seattle. And we were there maybe a week, and then we went to Vietnam.
Now, what all did they teach you to do in artillery school?
Well, that's really what it was. It's been 40-some years, They taught you more or less how to set up a gun battery. A gun battery consists of 6 pieces of artillery. They taught you how to lay those with the transit. And how to get every gun firing in the same direction. And been a long time. But they taught you, takes about 5 people to man a police officer. And you learned a little bit about each position. And I trained there on a 105 howitzer. And a little bit on a 155 howitzer. And you want me to continue?
Yes, sir. Keep on going.
And when we left Fort Lewis, Washington, we believe it or not, we flew to Vietnam on commercial airline. And we stopped in a little island, Midway. You heard of Midway?
Yes, sir. I heard of Midway.
We stopped in Midway to refuel the plane. We stopped in Hawaii and refueled the plane. And then we went on from there to Vietnam. We landed in Cam Ranh Bay. And Cam Ranh Bay was probably the most secure area there was in Vietnam. Of course, I didn't know that. You know, out there when we hit the ground, they're going to start shooting at us. And went through a 3-week jungle school in there in Cam Ranh Bay. And I was in the 1st Air Cavalry.
Oh, I know about the 1st Air Cavalry.
And we moved by helicopter all the time. Very few times did I move by road transport. But anyway, after that 3 weeks, I was flown out to my unit or a little runway close to my unit. And the runway was put together with metal that interlocked. Metal pieces about the size of a piece of 10-foot roofing tin. Your dad's probably saw a lot of that.
Yes, sir.
But it interlocks together and they make the runway down.
All right, now, do you remember where that base was at?
That was probably in Queen Yon. Like I say, it's been so many years, it's kind of fuzzy.
That's all right. Now, when you landed, were you issued a weapon officer like the M16 or M14?
M14. They all went M16. I trained in basic on the M14.
Okay.
And I guess wrong about then when they were changing over from the M14 to the M16. But I was issued an M16 in Vietnam. In fact, I'd never seen an M16 until I was issued one. And I didn't like them.
Why didn't you like it?
They jammed.
Jammed a lot?
And the M14 was, it was dependable. It was heavy, but it was dependable. The M16, you cleaned it every day. Sometimes twice a day. I cleaned it so many times the darkest night in town I could take it apart and clean it to the back together. But they gave you issue there. You used jungle boots. They had steel plates in the bottom of them. That's in case you stepped on a punji stake, you wouldn't go through the bottom of the foot. The Viet Cong would put punji stakes out and put any kind of part like the bank out on it. Chop them, stick them in the ground, put leaves over them or something. And a lot of times they'd put even peach leaves on. But you were issued your clothing over there in the jungle facility. And your jungle boots, of course a helmet liner, frag vest, your rifle. And in Vietnam, you never arms reach away from your helmet and your life vest and your rifle. That was your best friend over there.
Yes, sir.
My best friend now is Jesus. I didn't know Jesus when he was my baby. I was pretty dumb. But I'm awful glad I got introduced to
Yes, sir.
the most important thing in my life. I might not be supposed to do this.
No, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
But I was flown out to my unit, and we were out in the moon. First night there, we were set up in a big cemetery. And it was a cemetery as far as you could see in any direction. Never seen a cemetery like that. But my unit was set up.
Who was buried at that cemetery?
Well, Vietnamese. The first night back, I slept through a mortar attack. I was so tired. And didn't know it was nearly over. But we moved every week to 10 days. We always moved, like I say, we moved by helicopter. They'd fly us in where a road convoy couldn't go. And you'd set the gun battery down for about 56 minutes. And there was usually 6-8 people in each gun section. And then you had another section called your FDC. That was your fire direction control. And the infantry would call in artillery. The artillery piece I was on in Vietnam was a 102. It was actually shot 105 ammo, but it was the military name for it was 102, and I forget the proper name for it. But it was an air mobile piece of artillery. I've run out of things to tell you.
I can ask you some questions. Now, when you got to Vietnam, what rank were you?
I was a private E2. No, quick as you landed, you were a PFC. Out of basic, or when you went in your E1, out of AIT, which is Advanced Individual Training, you were E2. And quick as we landed in Vietnam, we were PFC, E3.
So now, out in the field, did you take turns on which part of the gun you operated, or did you operate a certain part of that gun?
The PFCs and mower usually cut ammo charges and loaded the gun. And the section chief or assistant section chief is the gunner. You have a gunner and an assistant gunner. The assistant, one of them set the direction in which the gun was to fire, and the other and set the elevation of the gun. And then you had people cutting charges, carrying ammo, and one of the third person loading it. So, the piece of artillery I was on shot the projectile that it shot weighed about 35 pounds. And it was about 4 inches in diameter. You had a piece of brass on the back of the projectile that your powder bag was. And you had 7 different powder bags. And they were hooked together with a piece of string. And so when you get your mission to fire, they'd call in and tell you the battery adjust shell HE, which HE shell was the regular cast on shell. And usually a fuse quick, that's the one you screwed the fuse in the end of the projectile. And when it hit the ground, then that exploded the projectile, and it was made up of cast iron. It just threw little shivers everywhere. And then, like I say, you had your brass canister with your powder bag. Depending on how far you were shooting, how many powder bags you used. And the powder bags, of course, was numbered. And the brass was reused. It would be sent back. I don't know, when we got through it, somebody would pick it up. I don't know. But it had like the size of a 30-30 or 30-06 shell in the center of the brace behind. But your firing pin hit it. When your firing pin hit it, then that sets the shell off, the powder bag off. But the artillery piece that I was on was good for 7 miles. I was always told if you pulled an observer that called in artillery, if he was really flying it right, what he was doing, that you could drop one down the chimney 7 miles away.
Pretty impressive.
It was. And, that was just, each gun section had 2 rounds called the beehive round. And they were for a human wave attack on. And they were filled, looked like any other round, but it had a time fuse on it that you could set for 5/100ths of a second. And that's pretty quick.
Yes, sir.
And it was full of little darts. It had like, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 darts in it. We never did use them, but each gun section was issued 2 of those. And we had another round called baseball that had baseball grenades. Seemed like there was 5 in those. It was from jungle vegetation. But when you get your first explosion, and then you get 5 more explosions, those baseball grenades get sprayed and bounce up in the air for 10 or 15 feet, and then explode. So, I thought that was pretty wild, 40-some years ago. But it's untenable what they've got now. We had another round of white phosphorus, WP. Now, what was white phosphorus? It was like acid, and it made a white mushroom cloud when they were shot. And the stuff that was in those was, like I said, it was like acid. They said if you got a drop on your arm, you had to take a knife and cut it out in front of it. If you didn't get it cut out, then it would bleed all the way through your arm. I never saw anybody with FWP on them. And we fired some, with our mission.
Now, your unit seen combat, I guess, any attacks at all from the VC or NVA?
Attack once by a human wave. The Viet Cong were South Vietnamese sympathizers, I guess. And the regular North Vietnam Army was on NVA. We got hit by a battalion NVA, and they were throwing what they call satchel charges. It's like a book satchel loaded with explosives. And they would swing those and throw them where you were at. And so that was pretty hairy that time.
Now, do you remember when that happened?
No, I don't. See, I was just in Vietnam during the high school.
Alright. So, how'd you get wounded?
April the 3rd, So February the 9th of 68, I got my ears hurt. We were firing illumination. Brother out there was getting overrun. We got the illumination round. But it had like a little parachute. So it exploded in there, and it had a little parachute. I went about, I don't know, 2 foot in diameter. You heard of these things? And we were firing illumination for those people getting overrun. And it would light up the sky. One of those would light up an area twice the size of a football field, just about like daylight. And so they'd slowly fall to the ground, I don't know, 5 minutes maybe. And I was under the gun tube and this guy shot it. And I got my ears hurt. And my ears have been ringing ever since. That was February 9th of 68. That was every minute. Then April the 3rd of 68, the Marine Corps was pinned in a place called Caisson. That was up on the DMZ. The DMZ was the border between North Vietnam and South Vietnam. And the Marines, nothing was getting into them, nothing was getting out. Those boys were stuck. And they sent our division up there to help Bell and John there. And we had slept in it. They got so foggy, it was pretty hilly like it was around here. If it got so foggy the day before, they couldn't self-fly. They set us down in elephant grass. And we dug mortar holes to sleep in. And the next morning, we eat sea rations and we threw our trash in our holes we slept in. And then threw dirt over them where the helicopter blades wouldn't pick all that trash up. And it started pouring in rockets and mortars on us. And it was like an earthquake. It was like you standing on this table and me shaking. And it's just constantly happening. And me and another guy jumped in a hole together. I was a PFC and he was sergeant. He said, if one of us don't get out, we're going to both get killed because there wasn't enough room in there for both of us. So I jumped out to run to another hole and got hit with track. And got hit in the hand. And left that knuckle where it don't look right. And so after this was all over, I took in a Jeep down the road to a little field hospital, kind of like my age, had a kid. And they just put wooden splints on my arm, wrapped me in gauze, and sent me out there. I rode out there in the door of a helicopter. And mortar flashes all over the mountain out there. We get shot down and getting out of here. By the grace of God, I did. No one's supposed to fire on a vehicle, helicopter, or whatever with a red cross on. But that wasn't always the case. I figured we'd get shot down. Scared. If a man says he wasn't scared, I can't believe that. I was scared. And so, guys, I was flown to a pretty secure area. And the hospital was, I don't know, huge. But it was blown up. It was like the walls were fire was what was holding the walls up. And it was like, I don't know, 500 feet big, I guess, 500 feet long, maybe 40 feet wide, and they probably had a half a dozen of them. And it was 9 days before my hand was touched. It was more hurt so much worse, you know. And so they fixed my hand up, and I didn't know where I'd have any use of it or not, but it worked out pretty good. And so I flew from Vietnam to the Philippines, stayed there overnight, I guess, not 4 or 5 nights. And their food, man, they had food. I mean, we had, I weighed 135 pounds when I came back. And so the Air Force really eat well. And so we went to their cafeteria, those guys in the hospital, and it looked like walking in the K&D. You had a tray line. You'd expect you tray on and go down the line and get whatever you wanted. Well, that was some of a train. And man, I got out good food today. Good food. And I ate about what you can hold in both your hands. And that's almost normal. And anyway, I went from there to Japan. I stayed in Japan 3 weeks. And guys that had use of a hand, one hand or 2 hands, and could walk were working there. We helped with other people. And GIs had been wounded, and I fed a lot of those guys. And I met a guy there that had been in Vietnam 26 hours, kept on a landmine and broke those feet off. And it's humbling. And I asked my doctor, I said, when am I going home when my hand gets better, or am I going back to Vietnam? I didn't know it was going to be several months before I could use my hand. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. You get close to those guys, okay? They get to be like kinfolk. And I knew they needed me. And he came to me a few days later and said, get your things together. And well, actually, that tickled me, you know. So, fell, come home. So, I flew from there to Alaska. Seemed like we stopped around Baltimore and might have stopped somewhere else. It's been so many years I can't remember. And from there to Fort Bragg.
Now, when you were in Vietnam, did you ever receive any letters from home?
Yeah. Sometimes my mother wrote me every day. And sometimes you'd get 6 or 8 letters at one time. And sometimes they'd be dirty. But it's good to hear from home. And mother would send me, I don't know where they got in grocery stores or anything now or not. But it's called Shaker Food. And she'd send chocolate and vanilla. And you could put water in it and shake it. Boy, it was some good stuff. Probably wouldn't be so good when you might would. They could get different things every day, but I thought it was. Now, companies in America like Hershey, Colgate, R.J. Reynolds, companies would send us what they call Sunday packs. And it'd be a box about, I don't know, 18 inches square, pasteboard box. And it would have candy in it, cigarettes, toothpaste, toothbrushes, soap, essentials, you know, the cigarette ones. I smoked them. And, but those companies sent that to us and they didn't charge for it. It was free. And a fellow should have remembered all those companies and patronized them. But, boy, that was the only thing we got that was treats.
What kind of food did you have to eat out there?
Eat sea rations 90% of the time.
What's the sea ration?
A sea ration was a little box, maybe 6 inches square and 3 inches thick. It would have little cans in it, like on shoe polish box. And they'd have a small can the size of a vein, or vein, or a mini weeny can. And there'd be seemed like there was 12 sea rations for a cake. And they were always positioned the same place in the cake. I knew the beanie weenie and the turkey loaf were good ones. And there was some of them that wasn't fit to eat. And I ate so many that I could turn the box upside down where you couldn't see the label and pick them out. And I say some of that stuff as hungry as I got. There was a cheddar cheese. It was a little old box about 3 inches in diameter, about an inch big. Even the Vietnamese wouldn't eat that. You could throw that to the kids and then look at it and see what it was and throw it back at you.
So, now, when did you first get into Vietnam? When you went into camp on day? What day was that?
You lose track of the days. They actually don't know Sunday from week.
Yes. Now, how long were you supposed to stay in Vietnam had you not been moved?
A year. And then you could extend if you could extend for an early out. Extend your time in Vietnam. If you had less than 6 months left when you got back to the States, they'd take you out. And I would have probably extended if I hadn't got moving because I didn't like the Army. A lot of people went to Canada, but I had too much pride to go to Canada. When they said you gotta go, I went. Like I say, I didn't want to go. Didn't like it at all.
So in your artillery unit, did you have a lot of good friends?
You really get close to those guys. My best friend was from Pocahontas, Arkansas. That Pocahontas, Arkansas was on the Missouri, Arkansas border. And Pocahontas must have been just some tiny. About like Miller Creek to me and you. And he always said when they wanted to really go to town, they came to St. Louis. And just small essentials they needed, they'd go to Pocahontas. His name was Jackie Kelly, and he made it through like that.
Now, did your unit, when you were there, ever receive any casualties?
Yeah.
So, now when you were wounded, did they give you any kind of medals or any citation or anything?
Purple Heart.
So, whenever you finally came home, what was that like for you?
Oh man, I loved it. Up until that time, that was the best day of my life. The best day of my life other than the day I got played. Well, people that's never been in a war zone don't know how to appreciate living in this country. Because it's scary. People that live in places like that, man, they don't have a lot to look forward to.
Now, when you got home, did you go back to a job or anything like that?
Yeah. I was a lot like your daddy there. I loved race cars. And I was a race car mechanic before I was in the industry. And that's what I prefer to be, work on race cars. When my ears hurt, I couldn't be around loud rackets. And I did a few things for the half. And I worked in an auto parts store for 7.5. And then I started taking civil service tests. Got a job in the postage company. And spent 31 years in the postage company.
Now, you said you got married after you got out of Vietnam.
Yeah. I didn't know my wife when I got out of the Army. I guess I was 21 or 2. And then we got married when I was 25. And God bless me. I have a daughter and 2 sons, and 4 granddaughters.
Good life.
Good life.
Now, you were telling me you went to school on the GI Bill after you got out.
Yeah.
Now, tell me about that.
Well, I went to school with your granddad. And we got to be good friends. He was a good guy. And actually, I think what all I was going for was the money we could get out of it. Which they didn't pay us anything when we were in school. When I got out in 69, I was a sergeant, E5. And I cleared 204 a month. And so I figured what I got out of the GI Bill was deserving. And of course, I did learn a few things. When I finished, I just liked maybe 6 or 8 months. When my GI Bill run out, I had a 2-year degree. You know, when you learn something, it don't hurt knowing it. But I was working at the postal service at that time, and I was going to school at night.
How long did you go to school for?
I guess a year and a half.
Enough time to keep you out of trouble?
Yeah, I never was in much trouble. The biggest trouble I was ever in, Jack, before I went in the Army, 13 of us guys got caught for aiding in a bit and prearranged race. And I lost my driving license. So luckily I was in the military when I lost my license. And so it wasn't too bad, but I sure learned how to appreciate it. After I got them back, I drove like another lady. And still drive like that.
Now, back to the military side of things. Did you like serving with the 1st Cavalry Division in Vietnam?
When I got drafted, something about that patch that I liked.
What did that patch look like?
It was yellow and black, had a horse on it. And had a horse's head on it and a black streak down through the middle. And it was a big patch. It was the biggest patch of any division that I knew of. And I was proud to serve. And I'm proud I did serve. I'm glad I served. I grew up a lot. And I learned how to appreciate being in America. I don't think a lot of people appreciate living in this country, but I do.
Now, what were your officers like in the 1st Cavalry Division?
You didn't see them much. You didn't see them much.
So you were led by the NCOs?
Yeah. Very seldom would you see an officer. And you didn't salute out in the field.
Why not?
If the Viet Cong see you saluting somebody, that's the one they were at target to shoot. So that's something you didn't do. And that officer, he didn't want you saluting him either to get that. So that made him a target. And they watched the safe farm in front of us in the daytime. And shot at us at night. And the only time we could shoot is when we were fired upon. You had to be fired upon before you could return fire. But I felt for most of those Vietnamese people. Most of them were struggling. Most of them, no doubt, most of them lost family. War is terrible. Nobody went in for war. I really believe that.
Yes, sir. So my granddaddy used to say.
Well, look at the cost of fighting a war. So the people at home are losing because the government spending all that money on war. And then the place you're fighting, the territory you're fighting in, those people are losing because it's destroying their country, destroying their water, their buildings, their highways. No, like I say, nobody wins the war.
Now, with your artillery unit, do you know how many shells you maybe used to fire a day, or have a guess of how many you used to shoot?
I don't have any idea. Sometimes you'd fire maybe 50 rounds at a time. Helicopter brought us our ammo in. And ammo would come. The whole round was probably 34, 35 inches long with a projectile in the right speed. Weighed about 35 pounds. It come in a wooden box. And had a row panel on each and carried it. And Lord, I don't have any idea how to do that. We shot while I was there.
Now, what was probably one of your most memorable experiences in the service of Vietnam?
I'll tell you something that happened in Vietnam that I'll never forget. One morning a rifle woke me up. And this old boy from Marietta, Georgia. It was about 100 yards from me. And I slept in a hole that night. Rifle woke me up, and I thought, well, we're getting hit. Like I said, you tell me you find this, always next week. So I get my helmet and my rifle, and I go to sleep and try to get it. And poke my head out, and these guys are gathered up. And that old boy had shot a pipe off. It hit through 20 round clip. And it was bigger than anything that I've ever seen. I'd say it was 18 or 20 foot long. And I thought, what if that had gotten that hole in the wall?
Boy, I don't think I'd have made it.
Well, fella, just scared him to death. They taught you how to handle a Vietnamese or Viet Cong, but they didn't tell you nothing about that big snake. Now, there was a little old snake over there that called a bamboo knife. He's about the size of your little finger. And maybe a foot long. And the Americans called him Two-Step Charlie. So that's about what you had if he beat. But he was so tiny, he was like a coil. You know, a coil like that to chew on to inject venom. He'd have to get in a place like that where he could get his mouth open. On the earlobe or some loose skin between your fingers to bite you. He couldn't bite you on the arm of those things.
Now, did anybody you know ever get bit by one of these snakes?
No, but I saw a few of them. I didn't see any cobras. I saw some pictures that boys had took them, but I didn't see any cobras. But they were there. But I saw several of those bamboo vipers, and like I said, that one big old pipe, and that was the only pipe in there.
What was the weather like over there in Vietnam?
Damn. I saw it rain for 30 days. Just an old misty rain. And if you could find a place to put your foot where the mud wasn't more than 2 inches deep, we found a pretty solid place. The ground was so poor. A full-grown tree was if the mud end wasn't more than 10 inches in diameter, you can't do it. And the cows, I guess they had such a small amount to eat. A full-grown cow probably 500 pounds. They just didn't have much food for the animals or themselves. Those Vietnamese people were strong. So their sign they were strong. I didn't learn many Vietnamese words. Vu Cu means a lot, and PT means tiny. Dong Lai means stop. And that's about all my Vietnamese.
Well, is there anything you'd like to add to this interview that you hadn't said or told me?
Watched it a while, and no, I don't guess so, Jack.
Well, thank you very much.
Add to it that I've known your daddy all his life. He's a good.
Yes, sir.
I know your mama. She's a good too.
Thank you, brother. Well, thank you for your service, brother. Thank you for the interview.
You're welcome.